Our next speaker, all right, is a Brown legend, which means a lot to me. All right, but Zak DeOssie on the call with us, 9-time captain for the New York Giants, a great legacy that we're honored to have on, and just super excited to have him on the call to fire us up. So, Zak, I appreciate your time, man.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. Good to join
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I can't wait to dive into leadership and development and how you see things through your lens. So, number one, I know there was a path with Coach McGovern, and this night is dedicated to his legacy and about his family and honoring his name in football. I know when you were with the Giants, you shared a quick story with me. If you don't mind sharing for the family on the call, just what he meant to you and any interaction you had with him.
Yeah, please. Thank you for that. First and foremost, a huge shout out to the McGovern family. Um, Bill was my coach for a little bit when I was with the Giants. Also, George McGovern was with us for a while, and I think this is great that we're commemorating Bill. So, as many of you might know, I was my value add to the team was a long snapper, and towards the end of my career, Coach Bill was coaching the linebackers, and as once I got through with my long snapper film, I'd always knock on the door with the linebackers because that's sort of where I grew up and how I came in the league. And Coach Bill always indulged me, allowed me to come in and sit with the linebackers and pretend to be a part of the team, and I'll never forget that because maybe I was a little distraction in the back of the room asking questions, but it was so much fun for me and great for him to let me in there.
Yeah, he's always a awesome personality and really led with love, which I think is expressed this whole night through every speaker that had some sort of relationship with him. So I appreciate you sharing that story. Again, for our listeners, you were emailed the link to donate to the Bill McGovern Foundation. That link is active and live, and we would appreciate and encourage you, right, to help the organization and obviously in honor of his name. Going into you, man, going into linebacker play in football. Excited to have you on the call. Again, an Ivy League root guy, all right, from a Ivy League school. You were the only Ivy League player in 2007 invited to the NFL Combine. How did your Brown education or the Ivy League mindset prepare you for a leap to the pros from, I guess, what's considered FCS level? Like, how did that help shape you?
I think it helped me big time, right? You combine what I learned at Brown and being around my classmates at the time. I saw it as a huge opportunity, and I didn't want to take that for granted. So immediately, I called a guy by the name of Mike Boyle, who's famous in the training world, and I begged him to take me on as a trainee and to teach me all the ins and outs of the combine drills. So for 4 months straight, I drove from Providence, from Thayer Street to Winchester, Mass, and I grinded with Mike Boyle, and I mapped out every single step of the combine, which, not to brag, if you go back and look, not bad for a long snapper in the combine performance. But also, when you get invited to the combine, there's a ton of one-on-one meetings. It's a job interview, and I was prepared for that, and I think my Brown education and the people I was around really prepared me and allowed me to be thoughtful. And I think it moved the needle to take this maybe seventh rounder and jump into the fourth round after my combine experience. So I made sure to prepare and be ready and knew the answers to the test before it even happened.
Yeah, and I think thoughtfulness is huge, especially from the guys who I know went to the combine. They always say this: the hardest part is that train station where they're just pulling you into rooms, and you feel like you didn't do a good job in the interviews, and then all of a sudden, um, the testing part is easy. You've done it so many times. I mean, the 40
Right.
is stressful, right? But outside the 40, the rest of it, once you get that done with, the thoughtfulness and how you do in interviews is big. So I'm sure what Brown taught you, and obviously grateful for that experience. Development on and off the field, from a fourth round draft pick to making the team to being a captain to playing so long in the NFL. What was your longevity credited to in terms of your career?
Well, if you think back, I don't think the Giants wanted to waste a fourth round pick on a long snapper, but that's what I turned into over time. And I think it was my willingness and sort of flexibility to just raise my hand when the team needed something. And that's something I learned at a young age. When I got to Brown, I thought I was going to be a quarterback, and they gave me number 38, so I knew something was up. But they knew exactly what they were doing, and they plugged me in at linebacker, and it worked out. But when I got to the Giants, our long snapper, my first day of training camp in New York, our 13-year veteran long snapper rips his Achilles on the conditioning test. And it was one of those moments where I raised my hand because I could always long snap, but never really cared about it. And Coach Coughlin yelled at me and told me to get in there and get the job done. And turns out I was a pretty good long snapper. And I think over time that sort of opportunity taught me to always raise my hand and always think about how you're adding value to the team, how you're adding value to the locker room. Because, as we all know, NFL stands for not for long. And you're always trying to think of different ways to stick around. And also, like you're in a locker room full of the best athletes in the world. And you got to be able to integrate yourself in that locker room. And I like to think I did a great job of that. And also being a union rep for so many years and sitting on the executive committee for the NFLPA allowed me to engage players that were a lot younger than me towards the tail end of my career. But there's a lot of different ways, outside of the X's and O's, how you can really bring the team up and sort of stay in your lane, but also, get out of your lane a little bit and get a little uncomfortable. And I credit my longevity to being able to bob and weave throughout the years.
Yeah, talk to me about your mindset in terms of, we've talked briefly off air and, obviously, heard the stories through the walls here at Brown about the chip on the shoulder, the animal on the field, the crazy man mentality. Talk to me about your mindset as a player and what fueled you as a player, as a linebacker, as one of the greats to ever play in the Ivy League, and then obviously into the professional level. But what fueled you? What was your mindset?
Well, I think obviously I've my wife would say sort of a neurotic competitive edge that doesn't go away, and everyone here knows what I'm talking about. But I think being on the field and getting the opportunity to compete was huge for me. But when you're doing it for a living and you're doing it for a job, I think that like everyone who plays this game is a little bit crazy, a little bit competitive, obviously. But what's the other X factor you're not sort of like touching on? And for me, that was, I don't know. I felt like every game could be my last opportunity to play something. I was doing something that I loved since I was a child. And when you're playing at that level, you sort of get bogged down with the pressure and the X's and O's and this and that, and you're doing it for a job. But I always found myself, or reminded myself that I'm playing the best sport in the world, the best game, and it's a privilege to step on the field every single time. And I think that carries the day for a lot of professional athletes who get to the top.
Well said, man. That's a lot. Being in the 1% and having the elite mindset are things that a recurring theme tonight. We were talking, a little bit about. There's a lot of coaches on this call. There's a lot of players on this call. In terms of coaching style, who are not naming examples, but what was your favorite style to get the most out of you, or to get the most out of linebackers when we're talking about coaching philosophy? If you can make an ideal linebacker coach, what would that person be like? What skills, characteristics, behaviors would they have?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to mention Coach Coughlin, Coach Tom Coughlin. He coached my dad when he was at BC, then again with the Giants. Then he went back to BC, and then sure enough, he was my head coach when I arrived as a rookie. And coming out of Brown, I didn't really believe in the 5-minute early rule and this and that. And Coach Coughlin used to spend hours talking about the referee's cousins and the weather and all these different possibilities. And as a young man, you just didn't understand. Then we started winning. So I started listening a lot harder and trying to understand, his messaging. And at the end of the day, he had us ready and prepared. Because if you're prepared, the outcome sort of takes care of itself. But I also like to think of a great coach. One of the best coaches of all time is Bill Parcells. He had a sort of knack on how to connect with each individual player. And, at this level or the NFL level, there's personalities of all different shapes and sizes. And if you can have a coach who can meet that player on their level on an individual basis, especially in the linebacker room, you'll get a lot more utility out of them, aside from the X's and O's and your teaching style. But I think that really goes a long way. Not enough people talk about that. And then I think one more thing is sort of, it's okay to use constructive criticism in football, right? And, we live in a world today that constructive criticism might be a bad word, but to be your best, you need to be accountable to yourself, and your coach needs to hold you accountable. Everyone's played really well and had great games, but what are you doing when you have a bad game, and how are you looking at yourself in the mirror? Because every offseason you got to level set, you got to reset, and the coaches have the ability to reach the player, but also give them the tools to be self-aware and critical to only improve, snap after snap, week after week. And it's a grind, but you got to love the grind too.
Yeah, no, that's obviously what we all strive to be as coaches. Is number one. I think the thing that stuck out with me that other greats have said is that connection, right? That understanding of who you are and how you can be great, right? And then obviously the player, when you give them ownership to that, that's how they exceed. I mean, player ownership is important as a coach as well. So thanks for sharing that. Going into I think the most impressive stat. I grew up a New York Giants fan, the whole time. The most impressive thing is, to me, in any sport, and a question I ask in recruiting to every high school coach is he a captain? Right? So is he a captain? Is there leadership? You were 9-time captain in the New York Football Giants. Talk to me about that process. Was that player voted? Was that coach voted? Was that an every year process? Was that you were just retaining that because you were the year before? Is this something you earned every single year? And then talk to me about whether it was easier to get it or stay it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It's a great question. I became captain in my 5th year. Won a Super Bowl my first year as a rookie with my head spinning, but I learned real quick to watch the guys who've been in the locker room for a long time and sort of emulate their ways. And that sort of paid dividends over time as I sort of matured as a professional athlete. And our locker room was voted 100% by the players every single year. It helped that I went to my first and then second Pro Bowl in years 2 and 4. And there's only 3 special teams guys you can choose from. But my team thought I was the right guy for 9 years. And, I've been a part of some very, very special teams throughout my football career, and I was very lucky to be a part of them. But the thing I think I'm most proud of is the guys in the room next to me tapped me to represent them on the field at the 50. And no one can take that away from me, and my former teammates would agree 100%. It's just an absolute privilege and an honor to be tapped as a captain.
What traits, what characteristics, how do you define leadership? Is it servant? I know there's a million other definitions, but were you a just lead by example, hard hat guy? Were you a vocal guy? Talk to me on your leadership style.
I was a hard hat lunch pail guy. Never complained. Always raised my hand. But once you become tapped as a captain, you got to learn how to sort of do your way, do it your style, and that's the beauty of football. Everyone brings their own style and personality. We had Eli here, who's just Mr. Just even keeled, can't even be phased. He's prepared. You just look at him across the room, and you just know that guy's ready. So it's time to get ready. Me, I was smiling. I was happy to be there. I was bringing guys up. I would see young men make mistakes and get sort of, go in the dumps. How I brought everyone along was I'd bring them up. I'd talk them up. I'd say, look, this is how it's done. You got to, sometimes we have bad days. Sometimes we have good days. Cherish the good days, learn from the bad. And those one-off conversations went a long way in my locker room with my style. And then sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone. I would mix it up and start yelling and screaming at players when I thought they weren't doing what the team needed them to do. And everyone knows this: when you aren't doing your exact job, the defense fails and it breaks down, or special teams or offense. And sometimes players need reminders, and sometimes I needed a reminder. And it's just the most beautiful game. And to have success and to win, to have a winning season, you have to have the right combination of leaders, and they all lead in their own way. And when you find that perfect combination of leaders, the locker room can sort of feel it, and it's sort of unquantifiable. But it is a damn good feeling when you got the right guys in the room.
Yeah. So, I mean, the leadership aspect is something that I think every coach on this call struggles to quantify, right? It's like, how do I teach it? How do I instill it? If a kid doesn't want to be the raise my hand guy, I'll do anything for the team. Most of the time, what happens is the best player becomes the captain, right? So it's like,
Right.
you're just a good player on your team and you're all state. If you're a high school coach, or if you're a good player and you have a lot of production in college, coach just feels the need to make you a captain. And to me as a coach, there's ways you can, it's hard to coach leadership in terms of the mentorship, the raising my hand, for things done, the way you carry yourself. The obvious things are the obvious things. How did you mentor younger players when you've seen, when younger players came in and they asked you questions? How important do you think, in terms of team dynamic, as the coaches and players are in here, you're a really good player on your team. Let's say you're at Brown, you're a senior at Brown. How important is leaving a legacy, and how important is the mentorship?
I think it's paramount to the program's success. Leave it better than when you found it. Leave it better than when you found it. As a college kid, I remember, as a captain of Brown football, that was one of the biggest moments of my career in football. And I was quite a madman running around, tossing around Ivy League offensive linemen back in the day. But you gotta, and my coaches let me do my thing, and we had the right combination of guys, and I think, as a senior, you will look back. Not all of us go on to the NFL, go to the next level, but you always want to think back. Like, you never want to look back and think, could I have done more?
Yeah.
Because this might be one of your last times to play. So cherish the moment that you have to educate the younger players. Tell them the mistakes that you made when they were your age, so you can connect with them on the right level. But also instill that fire and that sort of dog mentality all linebackers need, because it always works in a pinch. When you got nothing else, when you become a dog, it works. But I think being yourself is huge. You don't try and be something you're not, but also, there's a reason why you were tapped captain. So run with it and trust in your instincts.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to put it. When you're understanding who you are, that's a great thing. And it was awesome that you said that, being named captain at Brown was one of the best moments of your life. And I'm sure it was the same at the New York Football Giants, and the same as high school.
It's all relative. At the time, same pride, same privilege. And look, representing my team on the 50 before a match,
Odds.
before battle, is
Or your
just
life. Or your
the
life.
best.
Yeah. And leadership mindset is something we're really focused on tonight in terms of LB1. So we're really focused on leadership, developing leaders. And that's the key for the players and coaches on the call, is developing the best leaders we can for the next generation of linebackers. So I do appreciate you getting into your captainhood and what it meant to you and how important that was. I want you to talk a little bit, as I know your time's precious. We'll get wrapped up here in a second, but
I'm good, coach. I can go all night.
good. Talking football, man. So, life after, what is something like a quote, something you've learned, a lesson from football? You're an Ivy League guy. Life after football is always fruitful for those guys. But what is something that you learned, a lesson, a saying from a coach, a paraphrase, a quote that you live by still to this day, that you think about almost on a daily basis? Because all great players think about something. Yeah, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but if there's something
No, it's fine.
I'd love to share with the players and the coaches.
When I left football, I went right into the finance world, and it was a change for me, and it took some time to adjust. But when I was, navigating my new career, I always had Coach Coughlin on my right shoulder saying, attach significance to everything that you do.
Oh, that's
If you're
cool. That's what I was looking
attach significance to everything you do, and then move with purpose.
for. Urgent. Yeah.
So, and he was talking about putting on your socks and attaching significance to that.
So
But
powerful.
that'll carry the day forever for me. And I have a whole slew of other quotes, but that one is top of mind always.
Be significant in everything you do. That's all, and that's exactly the answer. I was hoping to get something awesome, but I'm gonna put that in. I'm gonna put that under the picture of you in my office because plenty of pictures of Zak DeOssie in my office is around here. So
With my
that's
cowboy collar.
yeah.
Yeah.
You got a big cowboy collar. You got the veins of the biceps. You're running like you look like a true
God, that was so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. We'll wrap up with this. I know we appreciate your time. Give us the biggest lesson you learned through football, the biggest lesson you learned from high school to college to being the pros. I mean, I know I kind of just touched on this in the previous question, but something that a coach can teach a player or a player can take from you.
Man, that's a tough one. I think, like, I got an 11-year-old and 7-year-old, two boys,
Congrats, it's
and
awesome.
I'm trying to install a 4-4 cover 3 right now with my 6th graders. It's a nightmare. But this game is a blessing to play, and I think now that I'm on the other side of it and I'm coaching kids, I think football taught me everyone gets knocked down, everyone trips up, everyone fails. But in football, you get back up and you keep going, learn from your mistakes, and just keep on going. And it's the most beautiful game in the world that if you're not doing what's expected of you, you're not going to win. And it teaches you how to be the best teammate you can be. But I think for me, when my 7-year-old or 11-year-old is struggling, hey, get back up and keep going.
What a great way to end it. I do appreciate you, Zak. I know we'll have much more conversations and obviously hopefully have you involved with the Brown defense and the Brown linebackers. For my Brown linebackers listening, this is a legend right here. This is what we aspire to be. And hopefully these lessons and quotes and stories have resonated with our listeners and with the coaches and players on this call. This is phenomenal. And I hope to stay in touch in the future.
Oh, I'm always watching, Coach, and I wish you guys the best. And to my Brown U linebackers, go kick some ass.
Let's go.
Wish you the best. Stay healthy.
All right. I'll
Let's
talk to you
go.
soon. Thanks, Zak. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.